applyan sa formula o sa inyong kuan CCF. Pero never mind, I will be repeating that one unya na after the poison. So this afternoon, we are going to discuss on the poison distribution. Usab ko ra to gahatag niya. Kung ano ba ko ang kanang condition given the problem. Okay, we have the poison distribution. A poison distribution is also a probability distribution used to show how many times an event is likely to occur over a specific period. The events that happen in a specific period. It is considered to be a count distribution. Point distribution are often used to understand independent events that occur at a constant rate at a given interval time. So the name Poisson comes from the French mathematician who had formulated that one, Denis Poisson. It is a discrete function, meaning that the variable can take specific values in a potentially infinite list, but the variable cannot take all values in any continuous range. For this Poisson distribution is discrete distribution, we are going to use variable that can take only values 0, 1, 2, 3 with no fractions or decimals, so mga whole numbers. Now you can see a Poisson distribution are used when the variable of interest is a discrete count variable. It is used to estimate how likely it is that something will happen X number of times. For example, the average number of people who buy cheeseburgers from a fast food chain on a Friday night at a single location restaurant location is 200. A Poisson distribution can answer questions such as what is the probability that more than 300 people will buy burgers? The application of the Poisson distribution thereby enables managers to introduce optimal scheduling system that would not work with, say, a normal distribution. Okay, you have here the formula of the Poisson distribution. You have f of x, f, that is x represents your number of occurrences. But then your f can be replaced with p when we are solving for one probability of using the Poisson distribution p. Then you will have the x, which is the number of occurrences. That is equal to lambda raised to the power of x. So you know that the x is the number of occurrences. All over x factorial. X factorial is the factorial of your number of occurrences. Then multiplied by the Euler's number, wherein you should know that your Euler's number is a constant value with a value of 2.718. Constant, you should know that value of Euler's constant just like the value of pi. Okay? Value of pi, automatic naman nagkuhan, register sa inyong kuhan. So, if you are using Euler's number, it will be also automatic at the back of your mind. It is equal to 2.71. Now, yung so if you're using you have your Euler's Euler's number raised to the power of Ahorita lo que tenemos. Lang lag. Wait, you wait first. Hmm.
Miss, excuse me, miss. Nakamute mong mic, miss.
Kadungog na mo?
Okay na, miss.
Wala pa.
Okay, miss.
Okay. Unsa man ang EB before in our previous lesson? What is EV before in our previous lesson? Na inyo na ikuan ginatabitan mo na we can have a variable with different names. So it refers to the same variable. Pareha na ninyo lain-lain mo pangan. Mag-introduce mo there's lain nga kuan. Chicks, mao'y pangan. Igaris pikas lain sa pangan. Pero lain pikas lain sa pangan. Pero it refers to the same person. So mao ra sad gyapon ni atong variable. So what is this EV which we now called, which is also equivalent now in our lesson sa poison, which is now equivalent to one. It is equivalent to lambda. So we have here lambda is represented as an inverted y. Okay. Ay. Unsa man ni atong kuan, unsa man ni atong EV? Okay, unsa man ning EV? Unsa man ang answer? Binido. What is EV? Who?
Kuan, miss.
Binido. Yeah, you answer. What is it? Answer na lagi in town.
Kuan,
Abinido,
miss.
sige mag... Ha?
Expected value, miss. Kanang lambda.
Saan ni sa binido ni?
Murata, miss, kay murag wala na function ng mic ni Abinido.
No, sige siya gray sa iyang kamot. Saan ni answer sa Murata?
Yes, miss.
Ha? Ang before, unya unsa man ning EV, lambda, unsa pa man before pag yun. Pagsugod nato sa atong klase. Unsa man ni siya? Kana sa atong lesson karon, the EV is equivalent to the lambda that we have in the Poisson distribution. Ya, unsa man ni siya before. So kung karon si Pedro ka, last time si Peter ka, so last time kinsa pa man imong gihatag ng pangalan nga gi-introduce nimo? O Abinido. Ano red man ni ay?
Kuan na ni mo, miss. Na-mute ni mo siya siguro, miss.
Okay, Abinido. Ganina wa mo mute, man mo answer. Oh, Abinido ni Ray sa kamot niya. Na malagi na. Green malagi na, yung di mo tingog. Wala na. Okay, sige, siya ra ba sige Ray sa iyang kamot. Okay, any other answer? Kani, ang gihatag ni Kuan, murata na, ibis, lambda. Kanya, kinsa man ni? Kanina si Pedro. Pag-introduce nimo dito sa usa ka babae, si EB ka. Pagka sa before, kung sa may imong tinuod pangan.
Kuan, miss, mean, miss.
Ay ako question na kay magbuntag ta ani Nancy ko ana question and answer. Okay again. Mo answer mo no question manoon mo na ako. Unsa man mag-question na lang ta ani? Kinsa man ni answer? Is Daniel? Okay, kani siya before we know this to be mean. Nga atong pag-represent sa mean kaniadto is mu. Ano ato representation sa kuan kanito? So our mu is just equal to EV. So we have this one as ano siya? Kuan siya? This is mean. Ang pangalan tong gihatag ani, yeah? Isa to nitingog. Ang gihatag na to aning pangalan niya sa sinugdanan is kuan mean. It can be represented as for a population mu or it can be represented as bar x. Di ba? Mao to sinugdanan mean. Represented as bar x for a sample, mu as population mean. Then we have pagka next na to nga sa tong topic binomial man siguro to or what? We call it expected value represented as capital E V, and then karon we have it as lambda. So meaning to say nga maskin pag ang representation is lambda, it is still a mean. Do you understand? Now it is stated here nga lambda is equal to the expected value. So equal to the expected value that is equal to our mean mu or that is equal to our mean nga sample mean nga bar x. That is in the condition that x when that is also equal when the x is also equal to its variance. Now, unsa man ito representation sa variance B? What is our representation of the variance?
V, miss.
It is?
V.
Oh, siyempre, kuan variance is V kay V good. Pero before how did we represent this variance? Unsa may laing pangan aning kuan? Our representation aning variance in the
Kuan miss
beginning.
katong sigma
Yeah.
notation mo ba to?
Ay lagi ko question na karon pag ako ningon ay ko question na. Question naman sa gunay mo.
Sigma notation miss.
Okay, it is sigma. So sigma ra. Variance man na. So what is the representation? What is variance? How do you represent variance?
Kuan miss square root of the kuan miss.
Square root?
Just a moment.
Oh.
Kalimut ko.
Abinido kay klaro ninyo ika nung man tani unta.
S
Unsa may
squared, miss.
variance? It is kanang kuan ni ang katon ni answer ni kuan murag inana ang symbol. Nya mao na siya. Sigma. But then there is a square, correct? Di ba sigma
Yes.
squared
Yes,
ang
miss.
kuan? Sigma squared ang variance? O that is
Yes,
sigma
miss.
squared variance. And then, if that is sigma squared, we should know standard deviation. Unsa may standard deviation? For a shortcut, standard deviation. Unsa may itong symbol sa standard deviation? In the very beginning. So itong kuan sa standard deviation in the very beginning. Kuan. What's that one? So ito ni kuan sa tingog nga kuan. What is our standard deviation in the very beginning, the representation of standard deviation? So, ang inyo lagi ka ano, wa inyo magikalimtan oy. Sa man ni? Sa
Kuan Miss, standard deviation Miss kay kuan Miss, it represented as
Ay nala,
kanang summation of okay Miss.
Sigma,
Sa
Miss.
may standard
Sigma.
deviation. It is,
Standard deviation, sigma ang symbol.
okay. Kung ano, sigma ra. So it is, in our, if it is a sample, it is letter S. Kung sa sample pa na siya, sample pa ang given. Ang atong data is about the sample. So you will have the representation of the standard deviation for a sample S. And then, for a population, you will have the sigma. So sigma ra. Kana sigma squared ang variance. So, in our population, ang ato i-represent na niya sigma ra. So, walay squared. So, you will have it that way. Ana ra. That one. So, for you should know, you should move back, you should know your standard deviation, your standard deviation, variance, and the mean. So, this time, ang ato mean is represented by lambda. Okay. You have already the description of the formula. Now, we will have an example for a given problem applying the use of the Poisson distribution formula. Okay, later on, we'll have also a normal approximation to Poisson distribution. So you have there an example that as only 3 students came to attend the class today, find the probability for exactly 4 students to attend the classes tomorrow. So you understand it first. As only 3 students, karong adlaw, there are only 3 students attending the class. We are going to determine the probability that tomorrow 4 students will attend. Did you get the one? So we have here, if you are going to represent sa iyang solution, if you are going to represent it, you can see that the average rate of value is represented as lambda. Your lambda is equal to 3. And ang 3 students represent the mean. So equal to 3. Ang atong problem is about 4 students to attend the class tomorrow. So we are going to determine Poisson random variable x, which our x will be represented by 4. So if we are going to apply it to our Poisson distribution formula, it will be P of x equals to x. So ang ato yung P of x dako is equal to x. So if we are going to represent that one, it represents the problem. So it should have been P x is equal to 4. Or you can go directly to P, then you will have 4. So that is what kanigi klaro ra ni nga inyong x is equivalent to 4 for students. So you have the formula ano tanig x factorial all over you have here n, you have e, that is Euler's number raised to the power of minus lambda, then you will have the lambda which is raised to the power of x, and then all over x factorial. So we know that our x is equivalent to 3, right? So ang atong Euler's constant will be raised to the power of minus 3. Then that is times our lambda, which is 3, raised to the power of the value of x, 4. Then we have there all over 4 factorial. Now, mauni akong dili gusto because in your solution, I told you nga, ipakita ako sa pilay value sa A, Euler's constant raised to the power of minus 3, and then give me the value also of 3 raised to the power of 4, and then in the denominator, you give me the equivalent of 4 factorial. I-substitute o na tanan. Ayaw ko tagaig answer where most of you are doing it. I do not know if you were listening. Ang kanan sa stage, I know they are listening. Pero katong wala sa stage, I do not know why they will go directly to the answer. Nga dili gyud ako gi-checkan. Anong mo check man ko ana? How do I know nga you know how to use your calculator? So, butangan na daig for example, this one P, then you are going to determine the probability of 4 students who will be coming tomorrow. X is equal to 4 is equal to the answer. How do I know? Nga ka na inyong answer, gipangayo ra ninyo sa inyong classmate. Pila answer by? O, pila rin pag-type. Unya, ang substitution of the values naa, pero wala ang computation of the values. Wala ko kakita sa value sa e raised to the power of minus 3. Wala ko kakita ana nga value. Wasa ko kakita sa 3 raised to the power of 4. Wasa ko kakita sa 4 factorial. Ang akong makitaan ani nga mo solve less than 10 students. So kaning nakahibaw sa procedure are these students who are listening during the lecture. Kay kung sa assignment, diretso mag-answer. So you have the formula, then you substitute the values because you know the given values. Pagkahuman ana, text sa classmate, pilay answer. Then answer lang ibutang. Yeah, always I will never give a credit. Or you take note of that. It's a very simple example with the application of the Poisson distribution. Okay, we'll have another example. But then be sure you know the the N and the P, because when we go on to the normal approximation to Poisson distribution, remember that there is a given condition. Sa atong binomial distribution, ang atong condition before we can use the CCF factor is that the N is greater than 10. In our case, when we will go on to the normal approximation to Poisson distribution, we will have to look at the N. The N, not the N. The N times P or the N times Q. So if it is greater than 10 sa binomial, you can use CCF. Ang sa ato sa niyang Poisson distribution, if your N times P or N times Q is greater than 1,000, ako ang basis ani, you can make use of the CCF factor. Now, the CCF factor that we use in the binomial will just be the same CCF factor that we are going to use for the Poisson normal approximation for the Poisson distribution. Okay, we'll have another example. This one. A factory puts biscuits into boxes of 100. So, what is that 100? That will be the N. N is equal to 100. The probability that a biscuit is broken, so there is a given probability, is 0.03. Again, ang factory puts biscuits into boxes of 100. So what is 100? What is 100? So what yun? Maminaw. Hindi What is your 100?
Yan,
Oh,
miss.
Jay,
Or
naminaw. Kapuya, oy.
N, miss.
Usa or duharay na minaw. So mo na inig test mo ra sad. Ang given na to ani sa atong problem is that we have an N boxes, number of boxes is equal to 100. 100 boxes. Oh. A factory puts biscuits into boxes of 100. So, N siya. The probability that a biscuit is broken is 0.03. So, we're given a probability of 0.03. Probability of 0.03. So, the probability that the biscuit is broken is 0.03. The problem is find the probability that a box contains 2 broken biscuits. So, unsa man ni inyong 2? How do you identify the 2? Find the probability. Find the probability that the box contains two broken biscuits. Una inyong paon. Fine. So you are given the number n 100. A probability that a biscuit is broken 0.03. We are going to find the probability that the box contains two broken biscuits. So unsa maning two? How will you identify the two? What is the two? Unsa maning two? What is two here in the problem? Find the probability that a box contains two broken biscuits. Uy, paningog mo, oy. What is these two? How do you identify the two? How do you identify the two?
X.
Kuan miss,
X is equal
X,
to.
ka
Against
na.
the X. So kung di man kun mo kibaw mo identify, unsa man yung pag-solve sa problem mo, kung di mo kibaw mo identify. So ang atong X is 2 di ay. So therefore, if you are going to solve for the probability, ang inyong representation sa probability will be probability of X which is equal to 2. So that will be probability of X that is equal to 2. Kung dili mo kibaw ano mo identify, unsa may inyong mahimo. So that will be your representation of what is asked in the problem. So before you will solve, if you will have this one, P x equals to 2, you are going to apply the, what is this? You will have to apply the formula, sa totong formula. Your formula will be, so ano formula? Ako pa yung misulti.
F of
What is your
X is
formula?
equals to
Saman.
lambda raised to X
So
over
it
X
is
factorial
lambda raised to the power,
of
lambda
X.
raised to the power of X. So it will be
X, miss.
lambda raised to the power of 2. And then all over what?
Yes, miss. 2 factorial.
Will be all over
2 factorial, miss.
2 factorial. Then
Multiplied by Euler's number.
Euler's number raised to the power of
Negative lambda.
negative. Yeah, negative unsa man. Pila may
Lambda.
lambda ninyo?
Lambda, miss. Lambda. Negative lambda.
Yeah, lagi. Negative lambda, pero unsa may inyong lambda? So mao na to yung formula. You have it as x. Sa to?
Mean, miss. Mean ang lambda.
Wala gyud unsa man na given. Wala. So you look at the formula
Dili, miss.
first.
Wala.
Look at the formula. Ang inyong formula
Yes,
is
miss.
a raised to the power of negative x, right? Uy, wala may formula diha. Naa. Sige, tagbalik-balik ani oy. Look at the formula, B. Look at the formula. Ang iyong formula is A, Euler's constant raised to the power of lambda.
Yes, miss.
Right?
Or mean.
E pila may lambda? Yeah, Ninyera. Pila may
Ano?
lambda?
N times P, 100 times
Okay.
0.3 is 3. Ang lambda, miss.
So, okay. Pero, pagkatag kuha ni mo. So, because in the formula, your Euler's constant is raised to the power of lambda, and if you will look at your given, you have only n, you have only p. Unsa may yung substitute sa lambda? So therefore, you are going to solve for the lambda. Ang inyong lambda is, ang inyong lambda is,
N
formula
times
sa
P.
lambda? Oh, this is
N
equal
times P,
to,
miss.
marinalan ako ibutang, lambda is, I will just place it here. Hindi na ko magbutang og kuan. So your lambda is equivalent to, in our given problem, is equals to n times
100
p. So,
times
n times p. So that will be from your given value that is equal to 100
100 multiplied by
100
0.003.
times 0.03. So wala to siya mag-given pero you can solve for your lambda. So this is equal to pila man?
3.
3. This
3,
is
Miss.
equal
3.
to 3. So nanamoy lambda. So when you will solve for this, you will have your Euler's constant raised to the power of 3 times your pila man inyong that is Euler's constant raised to the power of 3 times the lambda all over ang inyong lambda is n times p, no? Raised to the power of
Negative 3.
x. Dili pa ang
I mean,
lambda
no.
is raised to the
Sorry, sir.
power of x. Kanyang x pila man?
Yes, Miss.
It is 2.
2, Miss.
It
2.
is 2.
Yes, Miss.
Oh. All over ang inyong x factorial. So your
2
x
factorial.
is 2. That will be 2 factorial. So after the substitution of the values in your solution, kinahanglan inyo kung tagaan sa equivalent sa e raised to the power of minus lambda, then your lambda raised to the power of x, and your denominator x factorial before you will give me the final answer. Is that clear? O pila may final answer na to, ana? Pila may final answer ninyo? Kinsa man
Yes, Miss.
ini
Ang final answer, Miss, kay 0.224.
Yeah, usali akong estudyante. Karong adlaw. So 0.224. Now that is making use of your formula, ha? Because we will have the use of the CCF factor next meeting, solving for Poisson distribution using the CCF. Ang katong yung CCF, parehas ra sadto sa CCF sa katong normal sa binomial distribution. So since we have here Px is equal to 2, ang inyong kwaong CCF factor is where x is equal to your 2. That is equals to your n. Because, that is, ito inyong CCF factor. You will have to look at the condition. Basta kani siya, ang imong given is equivalent, equal. Mao na imong basehan. Like, because that is either equal, less than, or equal to, greater than, or equal to, for the CCF factor. But before you will use the CCF factor, kinahanglan your n times p is greater than 1,000. Pero kani siya, kay 3 raman ni siya, there is no need for us to solve this one using the CCF factor. You will use only the normal approximation for both binomial and Poisson distribution only if it is large.
Continuous, Miss. Mo ba na, Miss? Gamit sa approximation, Miss.
Oo, maura na sa approximation. Basta ang kanang
So, dapat-
approximation,
Miss, nakipa-clarify, Miss, ba? Katong, di ba na may dapat imit sa Miss, sa paggamit sa sa approximation? If dili siya makabot og 5 ang value sa
gisulti. Ang akong gisulti
Okay, Miss, sorry,
ninyo,
Miss.
iniabot na to sa Poisson kanang normal approximation to Poisson distribution. You will see to it that the n times p is greater than 1,000. Ang sa binomial distribution, n times p is greater than 10. Karon kaya nyo man nakita niya gigamitan na, which is not actually to be used to this one kay atong n times p is only 3. Makasolve na mo dayon ani with the use of the formula. Kay you will have to solve it using the formula and making use of the CCF factor. So unya ra mo apply kay ang hapa gud sa kwan gibutang maguna diha. The shortcut man gud nila nga. They are just looking this one from tables. Wherein if you will have to look at this one from tables kay gamay man, you can get the answer right away. O bitaw na sayo na kayo mo nakahatag sa answer, pero we were able to get it with the use of the computation nga. Wa din yung computer, inyo lang kita na diha. So you try to compute kung makuha ba na niyong 0.224. Because sometimes you cannot get exact values because one is considered to be one. Sana exact ha? Exact probability na ang kanang formula, while the CCF is more or less approximation na, pero they are sometimes you'll get exact values pero sometimes kung ano sila kanang muligas o gamay. Pero ang exact probability is the formula. Mo gi-consider nga exact probability. So we will not apply the CCF to this one kaya ang atong NP is 3 ra baya. So we will have another problem for kuan for Poisson distribution later nga ang iyang kuan mas bigger so that we can make use of the CCF. Have another problem. Okay, supposing we will have this ang atong lambda is always kuan dako. So in such a way that you can make use as a normal approximation with any. I want to discuss the normal approximation next meeting because we will have to get the z-score. Example lang. So the normal approximation. Okay, supposing you have supposing you will have a probability of kuan. Tulos man ni dagko ng kuan. Okay, we will just have this one. A factory nails and the factory produces nails and packs them in boxes of 200. So ang factory nag-produce of nails, ang boxes 200. So what is 200? How will you identify the 200? Are packing the nails in boxes of 200. So what will be your N? It will
200.
be
200.
200. If the probability that a nail is substandard is, ang nail is substandard, ang probability ang nail is substandard with a probability of 0.006. Did you get it? Ang N is N is 200, ang probability is 0.2 ka 0 then 6.006. Find the probability that a box selected at random contains at most what do you want, look mo? 2 nails which are substandard.
Can you repeat the question again, Miss?
Okay, okay na kay N, 200. Na kay P nga 0.006. And then, ang question is, you are going to find the probability that a box selected at random contains at most 2 nails which are substandard. 2 nails which are substandard. So, ang atong buhaton una, I want you to use the kuan man. I want you to use the formula. Pero, Ato sa tanawon kung maka-fit in ba sa CCF. Now, we are going to multiply n times p. Pila man inyo makuha sa multiplying n times p? 0.006 times 200. Pila may kuha ninyo?
30, miss.
Pero, how much will you get? Multiplying 2 by 0.0 ni raise man kasi mo kamo. Kinsa may lain. Merkado. Did you raise your hand? N times P, una kaya itong tanawon kung makagamit ba tag CCF or we are going to use the formula. N times P, pila may N times P? Okay, abinido siya. Usara may kong estudyante ani, uy. Usara makapasar ninyo, ha? Kaya wadi, nangatog, yun yung tanan. Okay, abinido. Or
That
habilona
is
na
12,
lang.
miss. That is 12, miss.
12?
Yes, miss.
Are you sure?
200 times 0.06 maka, miss. Or 006.
Bagong taga ng merkado. Kapila na ko gi-repeat? Merkado.
0. I mean 1.2 day, miss. Sorry, miss.
See? Una nga, kapila to gi-repeat nga, 0 yung pag ko point, duha ka 0.6. So if you will multiply your n times p, the number that you will get for lambda is 1.2. And
Yes, miss.
we had also the condition that if we will get less than 1,000, one good formula jud atong gamiton. So we will not use the CCF factor. But if you are going to use the CCF factor, ang inyong gamiton na sa CCF, ang inyong x is katong tanaw ninyo at most man. So when you make your formulation, it will be p x, that is px less than or equal to 2. Kaya at most man, di ba, in your mathematics, if it is at most less, so ang inyong representation atong formula ni ang para sa CCF, if we were able to get more than 1,000, ang inyong kuan adto, ang inyong transformation sa probability will be px less than or equal to 2. But since the NP or the lambda is very small, so we will use the formula of the Poisson distribution. So if we are going to use the formula of the Poisson distribution, how will we do it? What is your E, lambda? Oh no, Euler's constant. Your Euler's constant raised to the power of
Negative lambda.
negative 1.2. Right?
Sorry, miss. Yes, miss.
Ang sunod sa kuan sa inyong formula after the Euler's constant, you will have the lambda raised to the power of x. Right? So your 1.2 will be raised to the power of x, which is where your x is what? Consider
Is
niyo nga,
2,
this
miss.
is 2, Rasya. Dili na mo consider adto nga kuan nga. If you are, kay, ang naamagod sa problem, this is what you will have to kuan to remember. The given problem is at most 2, di ba? So if we are going to use or transform it to the probability representation, it should have been P is x less than or equal to 2. Kaya ang at most is less than. So wherein that can be applied to our CCF. Kaya ang mga conditions ito are equal or ana. Kana na may condition nga at most. But since I want you to use the formula, ang inyong formula ani will be, ang inyong representation ani sa formula will be making use of your formula. You have your E, Euler's constant raised to the power of minus 1.2, which is multiplied by sa itong yung lambda, that is, lambda is 1.2 raised to the power of x, which is, pila itong x2. Ayaw na ito i-consider nga most or
2.
2 na lang. All over.
Pero sa representation sa yang kuan, miss, sa yang notation, miss, i-consider gito siya, miss. Sa representation lang.
Ito siya, px less than or equal to 2. Mo magigitan sa
Okay.
problem. Pero, when you solve using the
Discrete lang
formula,
dapat.
Oh, discrete siya dapat. So, it will be 2 ra. Di ba?
Okay,
Kay
miss.
discrete
Copy,
man.
miss.
Oh, so pagkahuman na i-simplify ninyo, you will get the answer. Pero when you will go on to CCF, mao gyapon to ang left side sa equation, pero you are going to use na the CCF factor. Kaya ang katong sa kuan sa ang formula, it is discrete. So even it is at most, pero up to 1 jud imo, 2 nga given. So that is why there is a difference. Kay kung ang imong given lang exactly at 2, ang imo makuha sa formula anto di CCF kung panalitan dako ang NP parehas sa siya. But if there is a given condition sa usa naagyo siya diferensya sa gamay sa answer. Pero ang atong gi-consider nga kuan gyud kanang what is this? Exact is the formula. Okay, did you get it? So we will have this one next meeting. Ang katong inyong kuan for next meeting di na lang ko mahatag og kuan naglibog na ko ani kay sa pikas lain na ang kuan dili na para sa topic ko labad ako. Ang inyo na lang katong inyong kuan katong inyong for next meeting nga unsa ni nga assignment katong inyong assignment usbunton niyo solve nga I will be giving you the kuan the condition. I think that is px less than or equal to
So duha mo
2.
sulbon next meeting, miss. Maghatag kuan
Dili
sila
di
ni
pa ko
assignment
matag ani sa
para
question. Di pa ko matag ani ko ang solution sa question. So
so
sa next
mag-discuss pa ka sa
meeting,
approximation ani
oh,
poison.
sa next meeting,
Okay, thank you, miss.
kuan na to na ko i-restate ko to lang assignment. Mao lang una to yung sulbon kay haron more or less madungan na mo sa usa ka klase kay naglabad ako aning lain-lain. So next meeting dili ko magkuan ang hatag niko assignment kadtura pero ako tong i-kuan kumpleto ang kuan given adto. So mao to yung sulod sa katong normal approximation to binomial distribution. Sa mao to assignment usbo na ko. Pagka next meeting mo discuss na ko sa normal approximation to Poisson distribution para inig ka Thursday you will have the test of both. Kay mo ra man to approximation mahatag lang mo example nga greater than 1,000 ang n times p. So did you get it? Ang inyong kuan Thursday will be the solution again of the assignment kay wala ko to check kay di man ako ma-checkan because there is something wrong. So I will just repeat that one with the given value for letter A and letter B. And then you solve it again. I will place an attachment. Then pagka Tuesday of next week, normal approximation to Poisson. Pagka Thursday of next week, mag-test na ta sa duha. And of which you will have to solve it based from what I will specify. So if I will tell you to solve it by using the formula ra. If I will ask you to solve it using the normal approximation, so normal approximation ra. It depends. Ayaw ko tagaig solution nga gisagol tanan nya gitagaan ko examine pag choose sa correct answer. Hatag ko niyo examine ako sa tagaan sa ko ninyong examine nga multiple choice of your answer nga wala butang letter, wala specify kung unsa number 1 ba number 2, gibutang lang tanang solusyon niya pagpapangitaon lang ko correct answer. Muna nakakuan ninyo. Because some of you are just copying, like this one. Pila ra may nanubag, mas may bito ning class in kaya ang nanubag. Ray may na points. Ang ubang nangatog, di ba? Nya ina dayon ko ihatag ra ba to sa grado. Ikakita ka 4. Mo text dayon. Miss nga nung 4 man akong grado nga ka ako'y pangutanon yung kagalingang pangutan or if not, you look at the LMS and look at the record and if you think there is something wrong, I can look at my class record by basing na ako niya sa'yo. Pero tanaw no na ninyong maayo ang inyong scores because the passing for the midterm is 60%. So if you will get 60% average for the finals, for the midterm, that will have an equivalent grade of 3.0. Ang sa finals, I am going down, kaya di ko ganag hangyo-hangyo. So sa finals, I will reduce the passing to 50%. Munawa na hangyo. If your average is 50%, you will pass. If it is below 50%, 49, wala na hangyo. 49 is already 5. That is how I will grade. Because layo kay nagbiya ang 50 to 60. So katong nakakuha og below 60 nga 3W, nga panalitan nakakuha og 55, kana kung mo maintain lang mo ana, you're already passing kay 50 naman akong passing sa finals. Pero 50 ka imong average 50 pag tanaw ko daghang absences. Sorry na lang kay di na ko mo consider 5 na diretso. If you have many absences.
Okay, so miss, schedule lang, miss ba?
Yeah.
kani na may dagang tubag sad good miss kanang sige sila grace lang hand miss pero dili sad kuan dili lang ka sa stage pero ano ko ganyan miss katong nagsige ko grace miss dili ko nimo madungog miss wala ko wala nung na kuan akong answer ba na dire sa comment miss ang uban miss na nubag sila sa comment ra miss
Dili man sa
pwede
basta
basin
man
pwede ra nimo i-check ba
pwede man na nako i-check pero abi ninyo ang first magud mo ni Ray sahan di ba sa ang first the race akong gikuan akong gi-press mo lang musaka dito sa kuan unya kay ang inyong kalaki kay kung nanay mo racehan musunod-sunod man na yung uban wala na toy labot ang first time race wala ka kita bitaw ko diri sa mga ni racehan mo bitaw akong ipindot aron musaka yeah nagsunod-sunod naman dayon
ay si miss copy miss
nagsunod-sunod wala na toy labot toy usara so ang mo-press na ko diri unless nga madugay ko kakita dugay ko maka-press ang kato na press na ko may matagaan niya sayang sometimes ang kato sa gi-press na ko di man sad katag sa correct answer kumo na mo tawag na sa guglain pero mas may man bitaw nang naka sa kuan mo bitaw I am giving the chance of those who are sa kuan nasa stage may unahon akong tawag kung walay mo tawagan walay mo tubagan na mo na akong ilista na kog mga panganong musaka mo na kuan nga akong ilisan so makanal stage mawagtang na ilisan sa nakoglaing set mao na sa kung tawagon kaya ron makahatag og chance sa uban niya di man mo maningog gamay atong ni Racer pila na to ka minutos nga badyo ni kuan nga mo attempt og answer so mas may na way mo answer kay walay problema pila ray paghatag og hagbong amo na ang sa average sa 50 if you are 50 plus now for your 3W you still have the chance because the passing for finals is 50 pero ini ka compute na ko sa finals 50 imong average anyan pagtan-aw na ko more than 10 absences I will never consider your 50 even though I had said nga that is the passing kay kanang pagpapasar ninyo sa naa sa borderline it depends upon the instructor unang ayaw mo kumparar sometimes si Pedro miss ngano nahagbo man ko nga si kuan si Jose nakapasar man o nya ngano man nangopya man kay ito nako o sige atong tan-awon ang record nangopya siya nimo alkansi kanoy ka nahagbong siya nakapasar tan-aw na ko diri sa record daghan mo kag absences kay kaniya nya saon man ana to kuan na lang sorry na lang ano nagpakopya ka nya ikay nagpakopya kay nahagbong nya siya nakapasar so there are all factors kay kanang sa naa sa kuan borderline for the stretching of the grade it depends upon the instructor bitaw maglagot ko sa nga kuan masigig hangyo ano hangyo man mo ingo kung man namiligya gigihangyo naman ako akong kagulingon nga papasaron ba mo og dili that is why for the finals dugay kay mi makahatag og grado because we will have to think it many times dili kay gihagbong ra mo diretso I will have to think it many times and ang ako mo consider ko kana mo reklamo kon I will have to check because I have my class record. If in case there are some kanang mga kuan nga discrepancies, like for example sa meeting nga wala ang mitagaig chance sa mga ka-check kay tungod adtong typhoon din holiday din nya pagkaman di gipapas din ang gado I wasn't able to recheck my grades. O bitaw na mohatag yung grado ninyo before I will submit so that if there is a complaint, I can recheck it before the final submission. Kato wala naman. Yeah, plus we have no internet. After that one, for 1 week, gikan sa walay kuan internet. After 1 week, wala gihapon. Hantod karon. I am using na kuan another kuan internet connection. Okay, any questions, class? Wala na, nang tanaw, nang tuog sa balik. Kuya, eh. Asa ta magtudlo, magduka sa ta. Wala na ba may question kay I will dismiss the class? No more?
So far, miss.
miss
Okay. I'm so far, so okay. So I will dismiss the class. Okay, bye class.
bye miss thank you so much miss for today
Bye.